the GenTech podcast discussing business, investing, and marketing.
Hey guys, welcome back to the GenTech podcast, bringing you valuable and inspirational discussion with top business owners. Today we have on Roddy Gonzalez, the owner of The Bungalow, a gym in Tampa, and we're going to be talking to him about his journey as an entrepreneur. So Roddy, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
No, thank you for having me.
So we were talking a little bit about your story, but I really want you to, explain to viewers your journey. So first, let's start with, where are you from?
Originally, I'm from Hawaii, born and raised, and I was there until up to college, and I finished out my college career in California. Studied kinesiology over there. My focus was clinical exercise. I went to the California State University of Fullerton. After that, decided to kind of take my career to Los Angeles and kind of went into that whole field in the fitness industry, learning that. I was there for about 5 years until I finally made the journey down here to Florida. Yeah.
And going back to Hawaii, so you're leaving your hometown, and what really led you to make that hop and to go to California?
Yeah, I think being part of a small community where everybody knows each other, I think has its benefits, but obviously as we're young, we want to explore. I kind of wanted to, what we call it island fever. But prior to that, I was playing volleyball for University of Hawaii. I got injured during that season, in a surfing accident. And that was kind of one of those moments in life where you're deciding, what do I want to do? Obviously, as a 5'11" Filipino Hawaiian dude, you're not going to make a volleyball career out of yourself. So then that's when I kind of started to figure out, okay, what's my next move? What is my career? But obviously in that injury time, as many of us have been injured before, we kind of just have those low moments. It was not until I got together with my mentors, my athletic trainers, and just really kind of picking their brains on what they did, and that's what really piqued my interest, not only because they helped me get back and help me in my rehab moments, but get back up on my feet, but also showing me, hey, this is a direction I could take. So exploring different majors and different things like that and different schools, I felt like California was kind of the closest to home, so it wasn't too much of a jump, even though it was 6 hours. But then once I made the jump to go to California and kind of continue my studies in clinical exercise, I was like, whoa, this is it. It just kind of opened up a whole new world for me in that time. So I will say just kind of that exploration of wanting to try something new was really what pushed me, to kind of jump out of the coast, as I would, or to the mainland, as we would say, and kind of further my studies in there.
So the injury you were talking about, how did that moment really shape you?
Yeah, well, man, I feel like I can really go into that. So the injury itself, it was one of those life-changing moments because literally, when I went to the doctor, it was a surfing accident, and just got hit with a bad wave, and basically the doctor diagnosed me paralyzed from my T3 all the way down to my L1. So basically my whole left side was numb, and for somebody who's been mobile, right, and at the blink of an eye just get that taken away from you, you're like, whoa, right? Then when we finally got the opportunity and I was able to kind of get that little silver lining and light at the end of the tunnel, I was very appreciative because those people took the time to invest in me, right? And something that could have altered my life altogether. So I owe essentially now my life to them. So that feeling of just helping others, and I think that's what a lot of fitness entrepreneurs, why we get into this industry, is into this business, because somebody took their time to invest in us, whether it is a transformation or a mental health coach or something that kind of just got somebody out of rock bottom. There was a passing of the torch that, hey, you were in need, here, let me help you out, so that you can do the same for others. And that's kind of how we were always raised in Hawaii as well. We called it the aloha spirit, where we're always kind of giving back to others. And I think that's what really got me into this industry. because we always wanted to help people. Like we always wanted to give back, even if and expecting nothing in return. So I feel like that really shaped, and to have a career out, to do something that we love to do already, I'm like, sign me up, you know? So yeah.
You know, that honestly does make a lot of sense, and it really shows how much it has shaped your career, because now look at you helping people, not just with your business, but you're also continuously giving back to the community, and you know, your culture really shines through. And so you make your way to California, and how is that recovery time?
Yeah, so I mean, California in itself, I mean, that's a whole different culture shock, right? So I mean, from a small town to a big city, you would think that everybody's the same. No, I had to definitely learn the hard way. I mean, especially in California, it's a dog-eat-dog world out there. You know, they say it's always about who you know, and either you do there's that small percent of the people that do really well, and there's a big percent that people move back home because they just couldn't make out to the grind. And LA being like the mecca of fitness, I mean, I had my work cut out for me. I was just lucky enough to build the right relationships with the right people. I remember like my first job, the only reason he hired me was, I mean, it was a kid from Malibu. It was a spin studio, and the only reason why he looked at my application was because my number was 808, and that's our area code. And that's why I still haven't changed my area code, because I never know if it's gonna help me out as much, but it did. And lucky enough for me, he was a well-known person in the industry already. So I had a jump start, you know, and he just kind of showed me the ways, you know, showed me how to go. You know, unfortunately, like our relationship kind of separated. We just had different philosophies in how we go about business and things like that too. But I am grateful for that experience with him, because it gave me the kind of platform to be able to grow some more in California, because I got to meet more people. I got to build my own personal business, in the personal training business. I got to work for, you know, companies like Equinox, Berries, Orange Theory, a lot of these kind of like high-end places that take care of you as a trainer, you know, or take care of you as a coach. And I think being in that group fitness side really allowed me also to kind of get out of my comfort zone. I'm naturally an introvert, but if I have to be an extrovert, I will be. So putting on that mic and, you know, leading a small group of people, I think allowed me to really come out of my shell a little bit and kind of, you know, have the right conversations and have the right people. So, you know, it wasn't always easy though. I mean, I would be, you know, lying to you if I said it was all rainbows. I mean, I had moments where I was living out of my car for like half a year, you know, where I would be that one trainer that would also have to wake up at like 4 a.m. before everybody does to take a shower and you know, cook my meals in our gym kitchen. Definitely a lot of humbling moments, you know, I would say. But I think just like anybody's thing, there's always kind of be those moments where it's a fight or flight, you know, where you decide, all right, do I want to keep going, or do I kind of want to go back to home and you know, be in my comfort zone? Because I always know, like, lucky enough for me, like I was able to be raised in a family that will always kind of, you know, welcome you. I know a lot of people don't have that luxury. But I also, you know, have a stubborn mindset where, all right, like, if I fall, I fall. You know, if I fall by the sword, as they would say. So I definitely kept, you know, going, and I was tenacious with it. And, you know, and now here we are, you know, so in that. But California was definitely, I mean, there's a lot of stories, but I feel like there's not going to be a lot of film time to explain all of them. So,
yeah, so it's so interesting to hear your journey, and you know, how you started at that spin studio. Is that your first time being involved in that type of group fitness? Because, you know, as a surfer and volleyball, it kind of is individual in a way.
Man, and it's funny too, like I mentioned, like that's my first job, and for people that like know me here, they're like, what? Yeah. Because I don't have that personality as now famous spin instructors are. But that was just kind of like my, you know, open door opportunity. Or my first job, as I would say. And it's totally evolved over time. I think what that studio brought to me is the comfortability of being able to lead like a class or being able to lead a thing. Now, was I the best spin instructor? Probably not. Did I have the best music? Maybe. I would say I'm in competitions with the best of them, but I will say, not to knock on that side of the fitness industry, but that's not where my passion was. I think that is what paid the bills. It was a great outlet for fitness for people that enjoy that type. And I'm not one to discount anybody, but from a coaching side of a progression, because growing up in surfing as a sport, you refine that skill. With volleyball or basketball or any sports in general, it's a skill. So there's a progression mindset to it. So with a lot of these group fitness or group workouts, I think they bring on the endorphin feeling of like, wow, like I feel really good at the moment, which a lot of people need, and a lot of people at that time. But from a what's next, that was like my hardest thing that I could connect my passion, because my passion was just like how people invested in me to get better and not stay in the same level. That's also what I wanted to do for people, and I felt like I was getting stuck like in that. And that's kind of like why I also dabbled into like training and coaching in other places, because it allowed me to kind of help people be better than themselves, But if it was in that spin studio, or if it was, at the gym that I was working at the time, or if it was a personal conversation just like this, like that was my goal, is for somebody to just come out a little bit better than they did in that experience. So.
And you can definitely see that in your journey. And, obviously you were coaching at all of these different gyms and finding your passion really in coaching. But when did you really see your passion to be an entrepreneur?
It wasn't until, that's funny you say that, because I felt like I was always comfortable working for somebody. Because that's the thing in this industry. Either you have your own personal business or your personal brand. The stigma, I would say, or the stereotype for working for commercial gyms, for example, as a trainer, is that, the house always wins. They take most of your cut, but you're the one that's kind of dogging and slaving away. But I never got that feeling working for Equinox. I felt like there was like an equal basis of like an effort and pay thing. So then working for Orange Theory and working for these different brands, they took care of you as a coach too, And then to fast forward here in Tampa, I was working for Camp, or the CRG group, and they took care of us. Like, they were probably the best, I would say, paying company in this industry that I can say that I've worked for. So from a comfortability standpoint, we were always fine, or I was always okay. It wasn't until the pandemic, and it wasn't until COVID, like when everything closed, right? Camp did pay, me, so we were able to be taken care of a little bit financially, but it wasn't enough to stand on. And then that's when I kind of realized, like, if those companies go down or those gyms go down, I don't have anything, right? And that's the scary part, the instability of things, right? Not having the control and not having the, I guess, the confidence that you're gonna wake up and be like, okay, like I know I have a paycheck coming. And I think that's what really sparked, I guess, or the pivotal moment in that entrepreneurial mindset of like, okay, like I need something to help my family and provide for my family. And my dad, he's an artist, he works for Disney, but he's a self-paying artist. Like, Disney licensed him. He's one of the 7 that's only licensed by Disney. But growing up, I always saw him working for himself. If he painted and created paintings, he had money. So in the same way, I'm like, all right, so I'm always used to working my hands. I know if I work, I will get benefit and I will get a result. So let me kind of continue on that trend. But I guess that's what opened the door. But to the journey and learning after that, oh man, that's a whole different chapter. Because I could tell you right now, it was not the easiest transition, just because I didn't know what it took to own or even run a business, and I just wish that this was something that I learned at an earlier standpoint now, but we always say that when we start something new or we start a new skill, we're like, man, I wish I started this when I was younger, but I will say right now, I mean, that was probably the moment that I was like, okay, let's do our own thing here.
So you have this kind of realization moment, you know, when the pandemic hit, and I think a lot of us did, if our jobs weren't stable, and I mean, whose job really is?
Exactly.
Except if you own a business. So
Right.
I think that is such a great moment that you really realize, like, this is the path that I need to take. But how do you find the steps to go there? Like, to someone listening who kind of feels the same way as you and wants to branch out and start their own business, like, what steps did you take?
Yeah. Well, I mean, lucky enough, I mean, we have the internet. We have social media. We have those platforms, you know, that if you literally type in how to start my own business, you know, so many different results can open up. I think that was something that back then, you know, we wouldn't have been able to have access to. So there's a lot of YouTube videos, a lot of research, but I think the biggest takeaways too is because I was always like a kinetic learner and or a tactile. Like, I like the ability to, like, these type of moments, like to learn under somebody. I just asked the questions, you know. I just went up to my old bosses, my old experiences. Obviously, I went to my father as well, and lucky enough, and I just asked, like, hey, like, what does it take? Like, how, like, and just asking the right questions of just, how do I start an LLC? What is the difference between an S Corp and an LLC, you know? This is something that we weren't taught in school, you know? Oh, I gotta put aside money for business taxes? That's crazy. But I think the starting point of that one was just building the network and building the relationships, like, with the right people, but just taking the time to do the research. I mean, it's all out there. And I think for avenues and networks like these, you know, and what you guys are doing as well, I think is a great source of information. But yeah, so I could say that, like, that's definitely the steps I took, yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely what we try to do with this, is really just bring that information and talk to business owners and, you know, see what you did and hopefully help someone.
Yeah.
So, you know, you start your journey, and obviously you're a great coach and you know how to do that, but where do you get that business aspect to you? And how did you kind of delegate those tasks that maybe you didn't know how to do?
Trial by fire.
Yeah.
I think a lot of mistakes, you know, alongside the way. I think I had, well, the cool thing about it too is I had people that were, like, by my side with it, that kind of prompted me to do this. I mean, we started in a garage, like, because of all the gyms that were closed down and things like that too. I was just like, all right, like, let me open up a gym in the garage and, you know, and see what happens. And then after that, I would get, like, DMs from whether people that used to take my class or old clients, and just like, hey, like, I see that you're working out, I'm getting stir crazy. Obviously we practice the safe protocol and everything, but they were just like, can I come over, right? So I was just like, okay, like, let's do that. And then 2 people started becoming 3, 5, 10, and we live in a townhouse. We're not, like, you know, we don't live in this kind of, like, big neighborhood. And then it got to where, like, 20 people were, like, in my garage, and then 10 of them will be waiting for a session, but then they would be in my kitchen making dinner, and I would have my kids there and they'd be watching them, and I'm like, man, there's so many, like, people here, like, what do I do? And they're like, hey, can we pay for a session? And obviously I was like, at that time I was like, no, don't worry about it, you know. And they're like, no, like, let's do something here. And I think that's where I, like, really started to be like, okay, like, this can be an actual business. And this can kind of, like, take care of, you know, the struggles and the doubts that we had, you know. And then fast moving forward, like, to kind of go and answer your questions of, like, how we kind of started this business as well. I wanted to open up something, or I wanted to kind of create something where people can feel like they can be a part of a community, right? Like, they can just kind of be, that was the initial goal, or that was, I guess, our initial mission, where people can just be part of something. That's generally what people want. So then to take the steps to really learning how to open up a business and really taking the time to do that. That one took a minute to do, into finding the right location, finding the right property, allotting equipment, allotting working capital and things like that. And then that's when I brought in partners and investors that really paved the way, and helped me kind of like, okay, this is what you need to do. But then because of the pandemic, they were just like, hey, we can't really give much other than consult and advice. So then I found myself, and then this was kind of like my first mistake of just like, how do I start this on my own with my own money? Like it's not like I have, $50K sitting in the bank to put in a down payment for a property or anything. Like, how do I do that? But that was my first mistake of just kind of like, I want the final product, right? And I think as entrepreneurs and as business people, we have our vision in mind of what we want, and we think that's what we're gonna get the next day. And for me too, I'm a perfectionist. I want this there, I want that there, I want that cool lighting over here, I want this structure and this look, and I was so focused on that I didn't take care of the foundation. The foundation is first, what is your mission, or what is your core value, right? Because everything is gonna stem and build off that. The product that you have, in my sense, we're a customer service industry, so we're taking care of our clients and making sure that product is always the same, and just keeping, the overhead low, right? So I know because we want more, and I think that's also kind of like the gifts and the curse of social media. Like, you see what everybody has already, but you don't know their backstory and behind. I think that's kind of like where I got caught up in, and I think that's where people can really take the time to be like, hey, it's okay if you're in a 5x11 studio, whatever, and even if it's not like the end game for you, and really taking the time to learn that. And I wish that's what I did, because I think what happened is I just took on all these responsibilities. And the analogy I like to give people is kind of like I had all these spinning plates, right? I would add on, whether it was having a big facility and how to kind of maintain the upkeep of that, or coaching, I would say, like all the sessions for all our members, but not having the right people to delegate to. So I was juggling all these plates, and once one plate falls, it becomes a domino effect and you just drop everything, and unfortunately, like, that's what I experienced first starting into this, where I just kind of took on so many roles because I wanted the final product. I wanted the end game, that I never really took care of the foundation. So then I had to backtrack, and really make sure that we're building off the correct stepping stones. So
is that something you wish that you could have told your younger self?
Oh, 100%. Like, I wish I could just go back in time, slap myself in the back of the head and be like, hold on, like, it's gonna be okay, it's gonna be okay. But do I regret it? No, because obviously that's what shaped me now, and that's why we're here. Am I continually learning and growing through it? Yeah, 100%, for sure.
And hearing about how you started, how much of the success you have now do you think is attributed to your personal brand?
I don't, like, speaking to other people like in this industry and the hardships that they've gone through. I will say we got really lucky, and the reason I think why we're still floating, or why we're still above the water, is because the way we marketed ourselves and because of our brand. I think most, and again, I'm not discounting anybody's efforts, and I never want to kind of be like, oh, look at me and look what I did, because I made a lot of mistakes and I did a lot of things, but I think I stayed true to the brand. I think I stayed true to the network and who we are. I never lost, touch of that, and I think it allowed people to kind of gravitate towards that and be a part of that. I think the coolest thing that I hear people say is, because as a trainer, they're like, hey, I'm training with Roddy, or hey, I'm training with so-and-so. Or I go to, this gym, but now people are, now I know this is a brand, because people are like, hey, I'm part of the bungalow, right? Or, hey, I go to the bungalow. Or, hey, what's your home? The bungalow is my home. Like, people are kind of like adapting, to that name and to that brand and inserting it into their own lives, rather than be like, I'm being trained by Roddy, right? So I think that's really cool to see. And you always have those moments as a business owner where you just remember like where you started and how many people were with you at the time, and to see where you just have those aha moments of like, well, like, when did this happen, or like, how did we build this, So there's been more of those moments now than there were obviously back then, and I think that really goes towards the aspect that, okay, the product is working, or the brand is something, right, that can grow. So I would say, did I answer your question?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. I was like, I'm sorry, you can also like let me know too if I'm going off topic. Yeah.
No, so I kind of want to go backwards a little bit, talking about the spinning plates. What lesson would you say is a good lesson to like explain what you learned from those setbacks?
Right. Keep it simple. I would say I wish that's something that I did. I think I overcomplicate things, and even the way I express certain ideas and opinions, like I kind of jump into different things. But I would say keep it simple, keep it direct, know your mission, know your core values, and know what works and what doesn't, right? Being able to kind of, don't try to chase your losses, I would say. Like, if it was a failed mistake, it was a failed mistake. You learn from it. Don't try to be like, well, I know I can make it work. Like, be humble, and learn from it, and then move on. Don't dwell on the past on that one, because I think when we have so much in our mind, especially now too, I'm really grateful that there's a lot of like mental health avenues as well, and that's something that we try to really incorporate like into Bungalow as part of growth, is like growth in the mental space, or in the headspace of things, because as people now who have access to all different information, like I said, it's a catch-22. We can get caught up into so many different things. So I will just say, for the people that are starting out, and to my younger self, like, I just wish like I kept it simple, keep it to 2 to 3 things that you can better into 2-3 months. You achieve those, okay, great. Now what else can I do, building from that? And that's where you're gonna see the most momentum, rather than feeling like I'm always catching up. Like, that's the worst feeling, of having to like, am I gonna be able to maintain this facility tomorrow? Like, checking your bank account every 10 minutes after all the bills and all the checks go out. So I will say, just save your headspace for the important things.
So we were talking about the Bungalow's mission and vision, and you're trying to reinvent gyms here. So can you tell our viewers a little bit more about your business model?
Sure.
About it being more social and more than just a gym.
Yeah, I think our mission is, we want to create a safe space for like-minded individuals, where they can come in and grow, not only physically, but mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, right? And having all aspects of that. I think that is what gyms try to do. But for the most part, when you see their marketing or what they're pushing, is, hey, look great, feel great, right? But it becomes a very aesthetical, or I would say a vain concept, to where, one, it limits from people coming in, and the intimidation factor of like, I don't know if I can ever reach that goal. Or for the people that are already part of that community, and maybe they're not exactly there yet, but why am I not like that, like the end game? It becomes defeating for them, right? But I think when the mission kind of takes back to be like, all right, let's just make you a better person, like a better person individually. One, it lessens the pressure of having to keep up with everybody, and it makes it about me, well, that person, individually. So that's our mission. And then when you have like-minded individuals, because it does take a village, like, it's hard to do things on your own. And then now people are just kind of building off each other, and not just the hard physical workout. Obviously, we know that's what we're coming into. We're a gym. We're going there to challenge ourselves, to push our boundaries beyond our limitations, to push our bodies in certain movements that probably we would never have thought of. But to get that also after effect of like, man, I'm a better person mentally because of this. Like, for us coaches, like, that is a win, because now it kind of not takes us out of the picture, because that's always our goal too. Like, if we're not in the picture anymore, are you still going to maintain this lifestyle? Like, are you still going to push yourself without us texting you, hey, where you're at? Now it just becomes part of you, right? And that is also another thing too, or another effect that I'm seeing with a lot of our members and a lot of our people is like, before, working for different gyms, they had us call, literally we call it kind of our callbacks, and maybe this is a little, if you've ever received that text from your coach, it's because we had to, right? It's because we had to. So we had to meet this quota of like, hey, haven't seen you in the gym, miss you, you know. I haven't had that here. You know, I haven't had that experience. I mean, yes, there's occasional like, hey, I haven't seen you, but it's because whether they're traveling or working, but they're like, I get that first text of like, I can't wait to come back, or I can't wait to be there again, or I'm really missing the gym. And that's where I'm kind of like, man, these people really feel like, you know, they're a part of the community. So the mission is being accomplished. The vision for it all is we want to give people kind of like that safe space as well, where they can feel like, man, this is my home, and they can be proud of. So we always, I mean, it would be nice to have like the state-of-the-art equipment or anything. It would be nice to have, you know, the luxury feel and the things like that too. But again, that's the end game, and that's the end result, because I am a bougie person. I just like my things. I've been living in the city and stuff like that too. But I think my vision for the bungalow is to just have a place that people are proud of. You know, that they can feel like, man, I really call this my home. You know, whether that's with the most expensive equipment or with the 5x11 space. And if we accomplish that, when people walk in and they really feel that experience, then the vision is also being met in that. But our goal for that, and our goal for the bungalow, is to just be that one-stop, all-inclusive space where people can function, bring their families in, or bring themselves in. They can grow, network, not only in their physical health, but also their business health, financially and emotionally. Yeah.
So the bungalow obviously does a great job with client retention, and how would you say it really differentiates from these, what's the word?
Like other like boutique fitnesses?
Yeah.
Yeah. Not to discount what anybody else is doing. Like I said, you know, I think this whole fitness community too is very competitive. Like, I think it's so easy to be like, I need to be the best gym in Tampa, right? You know, I was able to, in 2020, win Best of the Bay, like for, you know, best personal trainer. I didn't even know I was in the running for that, right? And then a lot of people was like, man, you won Best of the Bay. What did you do? You know, I was like, I don't know. I just did what everyone else was doing, right? I think a lot of people are so inclusive to be like, okay, let me kind of follow my lane and let me do that just so somebody else can't. Where I feel like the best thing, or the best products, or the best companies are the ones that kind of like learn to collaborate and learn to do things together. So I think that's kind of like what I wanted for the bungalow to be. It's just not, we're the bungalow, watch us, watch what we're doing. I want it to be like, hey, we're the bungalow, do you want to do something together, right? Do you want to, even if it was, you know, a restaurant or a marketing company, or something as, you know, a pop-up for somebody who's starting up their clothing brand, right? If it's something that can benefit both relationships and cultivate that relationships, that's what I felt like was our goal. And in that, people just learn to be like, okay, I want to be part of that too, right? And that's kind of what helped our client retention, and that's really what helped our business like flourish, is the relationships and the networking too. And that's really what we try to push in that.
Going back on those collaborations, I mean, that's how we found you, from you doing a collaboration with another account that we follow. So how important do you think it is to be really involved in the community and have those collaborations with, you know, other Tampa businesses?
Yeah. I mean, big, huge. I think you would not be successful if you didn't. Like, if you had that mindset of just like, I'm gonna figure this out on my own. Which, hey, like if that's your goal and that's your headspace, then hey, go for it. And I wish nothing but the best for you. But the road will be a lot easier if you have people by your side, for sure. Because I would not have met the people that I have not now, whether they're future business partners, friends, family. Just mentioning the other, to one of your colleagues, how there's now businesses that have started like in our gyms because of the like-minded individuals that come in and be like, hey, like you're part of that, cool, like, hey, this was my idea, that's my idea too, and then just that collaborating stuff, something grew. I think that should be a goal for every business person, because if you're just stuck in your own thing, you're just going to be caught in the rat race, right? And that's no fun, because that's where we kind of we get burnt on both ends of the candle. But if you have constantly things that are just putting on and helping you grow as a person, but then you're also helping other people's growth, it's a give, and it's a win. So I would say, if somebody's starting their own business and they have a hard time not knowing where to start, build the relationships.
And I know you say that you do a lot of collaboration, but where else can you give advice to our listeners to find those relationships? Because, some people do want to have those collaborations, but they don't know where to start or how to find these other people. So how do you do it?
Yeah. It's funny. There's one company that we work with, Sunny Collabs, and they're a great friend. We both worked at camp together, the owner. And I just remember her. She's one of those like sales person, but when I saw her account grew, right, to a ton, and I'm like, what did you do? I just hit up people on Instagram, just DM, hey, same thing. And I was like, all right, let me try that, so I'll do the same thing. And now I have this like eclectic groups. I slide in the DMs a little bit, and just take that step, and I think that's what really social media is so great for. I mean, one, obviously make sure you're taking care of your own personal social media. Like that's the front door digitally now. Prior to this conversation, we talked about home and how important that is. The social media aspect is now your home, and that's people's first impression of you, right? So making sure you're really taking care of that. And then two, obviously the engagement, and then following that, and then hitting up the people and just taking that step. It might be uncomfortable for a lot of people to just be like, because it feels like you're wanting something. But I think you take away that stigma, and people are kind of on that same mindset as well. So maybe you're the one that's opening the door for them. So I think just really taking the step to make that conversation. I think it's so easy for us to just be stuck in our own little bubble, into our own little shell. And I mean, that's what the pandemic did. We were forced to be in a bubble and stuff like that. So we kind of lost that social aspect to it. And that's why the bungalow promotes itself. It's not just a gym, it's a social club, right? Because that's something that we push people to be, and be like, they don't want to just be that person taking the class and it's like, I'm just here taking the class and nobody talks to me. Like, guaranteed, you walk in our doors, you will know every single person's name and everybody in that. Not because the coach will say, hey, this is so-and-so, because everybody there will be like, hey, I'm this, or I'm Maria, I'm Deb, I'm this person, so they come out of their shell. So I think in a business mindset and standpoint, we have to be that if you want to be successful.
What other skills would you say that a successful business owner needs to possess and needs to have?
I would be lying if I said I had all the skills and said you need to have A, B, and C in order to be successful. Because I think from a fitness standpoint, like that's something that I studied for a long time. A lot of us in this fitness industry are great coaches, but we're not great businessmen. Like, to be able to delegate the right tasks, to have systems and operations in place, to know even then, like the money coming out, your net versus gross income. So I didn't even say that right. But the financial standpoints of your business, I would, if I told you coming in, like you need to know all of that, would it be a benefit? And would it be a plus to have that knowledge prior? Yeah, for sure. I think the biggest, I would say, not skill, but characteristic, in someone's character is don't quit. Like, kind of like that, persistent, characteristic. Because I feel like there will be moments and there will be times where you're like literally on your floor and just like, why am I doing this? Like, and it's gonna be kind of like that make it or break it moment, for you. I've had many of those, right? And I still had the knowledge. I still had, this is what you're supposed to do. But there are just things and moments in your life that just, it doesn't go that way, right? But if you quit, then you're done, all right? So I think out of all the things, skills-wise and what you need to know, I feel like embracing that personality and embracing that character trait, I would probably focus on that as a person, because we go into business in order to provide a service or to provide a help to other people. But if you're not taking care of your home first or yourself first, you're not going to be a benefit to anybody, right? So you're just going to be burnt out, and then people are going to get that from you, whether you're in the restaurant industry, whether you're in a customer service industry, hospitality industry, like for an industry that you're working with people or clients, and people can see that from you, that you're just like, man, this guy looks like he doesn't have his life together. They probably have that impression of you. So I would say, out of all the things and skills going into a business and starting a business, work on yourself first. Make sure you have all your check boxes checked out personally, that you're in a great mental headspace to go and take on new stuff. If not, then you're probably going to run into a lot of obstacles, for sure.
And business owners definitely run into many setbacks, and I think the best business owners turn those setbacks into opportunities, just like you have. But what advice would you have for business owners to keep their confidence and to really take these struggles and turn them into an opportunity?
Yeah. If you can, and I mean, we keep going back to this, concept of have people by your side, because, they're the ones that's going to kind of lift you up, to be able to be like, I mean, I can't count how many there's not enough conversations I can count where I can be like, there were times, like I told you, those in the floor moments, and so been like, but look what you've already done. Or like, hey, like, instead of having this perspective, why don't you look at this? Because they're gonna see things you don't see for yourself, because whether you're a perfectionist or you see things in a certain point of view, other people see it from a different lens, and they're able to kind of just open up that door for you and really help build that confidence back up of being like, oh man, you're right. But for people that don't have that opportunity, because there are, and people who are feeling like they are on their own, I would say just take it like one day at a time, right? Like, rather than being like, I'm not where I want to be financially, or if it's a certain amount of quota, I'm not meeting that quota every week, or I'm not ever meeting that quota every month. Okay, cool. You know that now, right? So now let's take it down a notch for today, or this hour. What's going to help me get there, right? But let me just focus on this 1 hour. Let me focus on these next 20 minutes, right? And really monopolizing that time, and really and being able to kind of like, again, simplify the equation a little bit, or simplify the problem, so that the solution can kind of come out of that. That's what I would say for people who are feeling like they're on their own in this, because if you're out there, you are. But if you are out there, let me know. I would definitely love to kind of network and chat with you, and just the stuff that I've learned, through it all.
Definitely. And as you were saying, you've had those moments of just like, what do I do? And would you want to share with us maybe some setback that you've had, and then maybe a lesson that you've learned from it?
Yeah. I think a great story was when we were first starting out and finding our first location. I think We had an investor or partner kind of come into the play with us, and there was like a lot of things promised that we had our project proposal, we had our business proposal, our business plan, or things like that too. Everything was checked out, right? So now it was just a matter of like finding the right location, signing the paper on the dotted line, and then going for it, right? So we found the location. We were so excited. And then once we were about to sign that rental agreement and we were about to order all the equipment, we were about to go for it, our partner unfortunately was just like, hey, I got to back out because I got to move, right? So I can no longer support this this endeavor, right? So I was just like, man, so here I am. I made promises to people. I kind of was just like, yeah, this is who we are. I shouted this out already. I had all these agreements with different, companies and things like that too. And, I had to kind of backtrack and tell them like, yeah, we're actually not going to go that route because we don't have the capital and we don't have the money to do that, to be able to go to that property that we were going to rent out and be like, yeah, we're going to have to back out of this offer. You give us a really good offer, but there's no way we can, support this. And those were times where it was just like, man, like, why am I doing this? How can we do this? How can we fund this? How can, and all these questions kind of arose and insecurities kind of came out of just like, is this something that we really need to do? Because I had, other business partners that I promised them a certain amount of, pay. I had different partnerships that were like, hey, we're going to go into this business together, but now you're telling me you can't even support that. So it was very embarrassing. And I think that's where I overpromised and I underdelivered. And a lot of relationships and a lot of bridges were burned because of that, but being prideful, I kept going like, no, we're going to be fine. We're going to do this. No. And I played kind of like that salesy role, just like, but just wait. And look at that. And then soon time enough to where I was having to tap into my own, savings and my own funds to support the business and support the things. And I found myself in the underwater. So then I found myself like kind of trying to dig out of this hole that I've created, rather than just being honest of where I'm at and telling people where I'm at, rather than trying to kind of maintain this image of like, I'm doing so well. I mean, even my investor would check in on me because, we were friends. How's everything? I was like, oh, we're fine. But being that prideful role of just like, yeah, I really needed you, but I don't need you, and I wish I can go back in time and just be like, yo, just be honest in where you're at. Because when you're honest where you're at, it's easier to take the right steps forward rather than making all these promises and all these deals that you can't even commit to, or you can't even, there's not a lot of meat to the bones, basically, is what I'm saying. So I would say kind of for people, it's just kind of be honest with where they're at and know that it's okay to be there. It happens more often than not because people that now I've talked to, like other business owners and other successful companies, when they tell me their stories, I'm just kind of like, yo, I'm there right now. Like, so what'd you do? So, oh, it happens more often. Okay, cool. All right. So then that makes it, okay. And shows that, okay, there is a light to the end of the tunnel for it.
And the bungalow, like you said, having that social club aspect with those like-minded people, I think you're just really making this atmosphere for people to be able to share that. Like you said, like businesses have come out of your gym because of the conversation that's happening and having that openness. So I can see that, you really learned from that and made that environment in your own gym, which is super special. And, in your industry, how would you measure or define success?
Just care. Like, I think for the people, I think, being kind of part of both worlds where I'm working for somebody like in the product and then working for myself. I think when I was working for somebody kind of delivering their product or delivering their workout, they were very specific. Like, we want a coach to look like this. We want this coach to have this type of personality, have, this type of atmosphere and structure in the room, which, hey, that's your business, that's your product, that's what you need, right? But it kind of shaped us to be like robots, right? If we're not following something, then we're not gonna have that best class, or we're not gonna have that best workout. People aren't gonna come back to see you. But I knew there was something more to that than that surface level. So what I tried to do, like in my sessions, in my classes, or my experiences with people, is I would invest my own time, because that's what happened to me, right? People invested in me, so I'm gonna invest in them. So I took the time to learn not just somebody's name, but kind of like what they're going through, and who they are, their family, their wants, needs, weaknesses, right? Because as a coach, like, that's your goal, right? Is to help somebody grow out of themselves, or take them to a place that they feel like they're stuck in. So I think in the bungalow, like, that's what we try to do for people, is we just care. I mean, when people come in here, I'm like, so what makes you different from the gym? I'm like, this workout is for you personally. Like, if not, not just for a person trying to get fit, but it's just like, okay, what does Amy need right now, right? What does Naja need right now? And then let's really push that for you. So if somebody in the fitness industry just takes that little moment, that little 10-20 minute conversation, and really cares about the person, their successes are going to be boundless.
So to wrap up the podcast, what is the biggest takeaway that you hope our listeners learn?
The biggest takeaway that I hope whoever's watching this is, it's okay to be where you're at. It's okay to take it day by day, and to take kind of like a realistic checklist, but also kind of just what I mentioned in that one point about, what type of characteristic you have. I just don't give up, right? If your goal is your goal and your mission is your mission, don't lose sight of that. Obviously, if there are people or if there are things that can make it better, hey, take all the advice and take all of that, but don't lose your foundation in that. That's just kind of that cheesy stay true to yourself motto, because if you're authentic, you're staying true to that, you're always checking in with with why you started, checking in with the why and the mission and the core values, your customers, your clients, your people will see that, and they'll take that and they'll adapt to that and attach themselves to that, because you're genuine. So don't lose that authenticity, don't lose that genuineness, and it takes those little moments of self-check-ins to really get into that. So that's what I would say I would have people take away from this.
And that was a great lesson. And Roddy, where can our listeners find you online?
Online, you can check our Instagram, Bungalow TPA. You can also find us on TikTok, The Bungalow TPA, and our website too, which is www.thebungalowtpa.com.
And my name is Naja Sasa, and you can find us at GenTech Marketing on all social media platforms. Roddy, thank you so much for being on the podcast again.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's great.
And thank you guys. We'll see you next week.